She looked straight into the camera and claimed that Ethan's own brother tried to set him on fire. That's right. Veronica Peters put one of the most shocking accusations ever into the Welcome to Plathville storyline, and for a moment the internet lit up with outrage. Fans were stunned, grabbing onto her every word, thinking maybe she had finally ripped the curtain back on what really goes on in that family. But as the actual footage rolled out on TLC, the story didn't line up. What Veronica swore happened in private looked very different when the cameras showed us the scene, and from that moment, her rise as a supposed truth teller began to crumble. Hi friends, my name is Sophie, and you're watching Reality Scandals Daily. If you love breaking down shocking moments, messy family drama, and the kind of reality TV twists that nobody sees coming, you're in the right place. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments if you think Veronica really believed what she was saying or if she knew she was exaggerating. I'll be watching for your thoughts because I want to hear how you all interpret this one. Now let's be honest, when a brand new voice steps into the chaos of the Plath family, especially someone who paints themselves as brave enough to tell hidden truths, it's hard not to get pulled in. That's exactly what happened with Veronica. At first, she felt like Olivia 2.0, another woman standing up against what so many viewers have seen as years of control, dysfunction, and secrecy. Fans wanted her to be the one who would validate what they'd already suspected about Ethan's family. But here's the problem. Reality television isn't just about words, it's about receipts. When Veronica put such a wild claim on the table, everyone was waiting for the footage to back her up, and when that episode aired, what we actually saw raised more questions than it answered. Instead of attempted arson, what the cameras captured looked far less extreme, and fans didn't miss the difference. In today's breakdown, I'm taking you step by step through how Veronica's credibility skyrocketed in one moment, only to collapse just as quickly when the show itself told a different story. We're going to look at who she is, why fans believed her at first, what exactly she claimed, how the footage exposed the cracks, and why the online community turned her into a punchline almost overnight. This is the story of Veronica Peters' rise and fall in Welcome to Plathville. When Veronica Peters first appeared connected to the Plathville storyline, a lot of viewers weren't exactly sure what to make of her. She wasn't one of the original Plath siblings, she wasn't part of the core family we've been following for years, but she positioned herself in a way that demanded attention. She came in with the tone of someone carrying inside knowledge, someone who had seen the darker corners of the Plath world and was finally ready to talk. And in a family that has built its entire public image around secrecy, discipline, and carefully controlled appearances, that kind of voice can be magnetic. From the start, Veronica aligned herself with the people viewers already trusted. She echoed themes that Olivia Plath had been speaking about for years, feeling stifled, silenced, and weighed down by the rigid control of the Plath household. Olivia has always been a complicated figure in this show, but she's also been one of the few who consistently pulled back the curtain on what it was really like to live under Kim and Barry's authority. So when Veronica came along sounding like she had been through similar struggles, fans immediately connected her to Olivia's truth-telling energy. For a lot of people, that was all it took. She didn't have to prove much in the beginning because the audience was ready for another ally, someone who could strengthen the case against the culture of fear and manipulation they'd seen play out season after season. Viewers were tired of the same old narrative where Kim and Barry looked calm on camera while their kids quietly fell apart in the background. Veronica's entrance promised a new voice, a new witness, and maybe even new evidence to confirm what fans had suspected all along. And you could feel that early sympathy rolling in. Fans flooded social media saying things like, "Finally, someone else is speaking up," and this confirms what Olivia has been saying all along. Veronica wasn't just accepted, she was celebrated, almost instantly elevated as the next truth teller in a long line of people who had tried to stand up against the Plath family. She wasn't polished, she wasn't part of the TLC edit yet, but sometimes that rawness makes a person feel even more credible. In those early moments, Veronica Peters wasn't just another face in the crowd. She became, at least for a little while, a symbol of resistance, and fans were more than ready to believe her. The moment that really sent shockwaves through the Plathville community was when Veronica dropped her most explosive accusation. Sitting there almost casual in her delivery, she claimed that Zach, Ethan's own brother, had tried to set him on fire. Let that sink in for a second, not just a fight, not just harsh words, but an act that sounded violent, reckless, and beyond anything fans had ever imagined could come out of this family. For years, we've seen the Plaths argue, we've seen distance and heartbreak, but a claim like attempted arson, that crossed into territory that felt criminal. And Veronica didn't stop there. She painted the picture in a way that sounded dire, even dangerous. The way she framed it, Ethan was the target of something far darker than just sibling rivalry. For fans who had already been primed to see Ethan as a victim, caught between his wife Olivia, his strict parents, and his fractured relationships with his siblings, this claim felt like the final proof that things were way more toxic than anyone could guess. I'll be honest with you, my jaw hit the floor when I first heard it. I remember sitting there thinking, if this is true, then everything we thought we knew about the Plath family just got 10 times darker. And I wasn't alone. All across Twitter and Reddit, fans were buzzing. People were quoting Veronica's words, dissecting them, running with the idea that the Plath family's conflicts had now reached a terrifying new level. It hit so hard because it wasn't just drama, it sounded like evidence of real danger. If you followed this show for years like I have, you know the Plath parents, Kim and Barry, have always presented this image of strict but peaceful Christian parenting. To hear that one of their own children might have tried something violent against Ethan, it felt like the kind of twist that would rewrite the entire family narrative. And fans didn't just gasp and move on. They were waiting. People started saying, I can't wait until the next episode. TLC better show us what really happened. That's how powerful Veronica's claim was. She created this anticipation, this sense that the upcoming footage would either blow the roof off the Plathville storyline or confirm her as one of the bravest truth tellers yet. In those weeks before the episode aired, Veronica's words had already done their work. She had shifted the spotlight entirely onto herself, positioning her story as the one thing that could finally confirm all the whispers about how dangerous and how dysfunctional life inside the Plath family really was. When the long-awaited episode finally aired, fans were glued to their screens, popcorn in hand, waiting to see if Veronica's shocking claim would play out exactly as she described. After all the build-up, after all the whispers and speculation online, the pressure was on TLC's footage to either prove her right or completely unravel her credibility. And what we actually saw left viewers stunned, but not for the reasons Veronica wanted. Instead of a full-blown act of violence, the scene that played out on camera looked very different. It wasn't Zach dousing Ethan in gasoline or threatening him with fire, as Veronica's words had implied. What the cameras showed was grass burning, a reckless act, sure, and definitely not something to dismiss, but nowhere near the terrifying picture Veronica had painted. Fans immediately noticed the gap between her accusation and the actual footage. To many, it felt like the difference between exaggeration and outright fabrication. Ethan himself didn't respond in the way you'd expect from someone who had just survived an attempted arson. His demeanor in the scene was more annoyed than traumatized. There was no sense of shock or fear, and that stood out. Olivia, who has never been shy about calling out the Plath family's dysfunction, also didn't frame it as a life-threatening attack. Micah, too, reacted in a way that felt consistent with sibling drama, not a criminal act. These reactions spoke volumes. If even the closest witnesses weren't treating it like Veronica had described, then fans were left wondering, where exactly did her version of events come from? That's when the tide began to turn. Social media lit up, but this time it wasn't in support of Veronica. Instead, viewers began pulling side-by-side comparisons, clipping her statements next to the actual episode footage. Comments poured in, pointing out that while there was definitely fire involved, it didn't match the shocking story Veronica had told. Reddit threads exploded with titles like, "Did she just exaggerate the whole thing? And this isn't adding up." In just a single airing, Veronica's credibility cracked wide open. What had sounded like the most shocking Plathville revelation in years suddenly looked like a stretch, a story that got away from her. And once fans saw the footage for themselves, sympathy turned into suspicion. The edit hadn't just failed to back her up, it exposed the gap between what she claimed and what actually happened. The moment the episode aired, the fan community wasted no time stepping into detective mode. It was as if thousands of amateur investigators suddenly clocked in for duty, armed with pause buttons, clip-sharing apps, and a hunger for the truth. Within hours, Reddit threads were breaking down Veronica's claims line by line, stacking them against actual footage. Fans clipped the burning grass scene and replayed it alongside her original words, showing the jarring contrast between arson attempt and what looked like nothing more than reckless stupidity. Twitter was no kinder. Memes exploded overnight. One viral post had side-by-side screenshots. On the left, Veronica's dramatic claim in bold text. On the right, a looping gif of a tiny patch of grass burning, while Ethan barely reacted. The caption, "This is the crime of the century." Another popular meme compared Veronica's story to a Hollywood blockbuster trailer, only for the real scene to play out like a backyard accident. The exaggeration became a punchline, and once ridicule sets in, credibility doesn't just weaken, it collapses. At first, some fans still tried to defend her, saying maybe the cameras didn't capture everything. But as more people clipped, rewound, and dissected the footage, that defense crumbled. The sheer weight of crowdsourced evidence was undeniable. When the fanbase turns into a hive of fact-checkers, there's no hiding behind vague claims. Every second of airtime was analyzed, every reaction scrutinized, and the verdict was brutal. Veronica had overplayed her hand. The cultural shift was fast and merciless. Sympathy that once fueled her following was replaced with mockery. Comments on YouTube recaps called her the queen of exaggeration. Reddit users joked about adding Firestarter to her resume. Even Instagram, where Veronica had once found pockets of support, became flooded with sarcastic replies and clown emojis. What's fascinating is how quickly the narrative flipped. One week she was the bold truth teller exposing hidden Plathville scandals, and the next she was the subject of memes roasting her credibility. The same fans who once hung on her every word were now laughing at her expense. The internet's collective fact-checking power didn't just debunk her story, it rewrote her reputation in real time, leaving her standing in the ashes of her own exaggeration. It's almost shocking how fast the pendulum swung against Veronica. Just weeks before, she was the woman fans whispered about in hushed tones, the insider who dared to say the things no one else would. But once the contradictions between her words and the footage were exposed, her image unraveled almost overnight. What had been curiosity turned into skepticism, and then outright dismissal. Fans no longer treated her as a whistleblower. She became the cautionary tale of what happens when you oversell a story. The moral here is brutal, but it's one every reality TV participant should tattoo on their arm. In this genre, credibility is currency. Exaggeration might buy you a moment of attention, but it risks everything. Once trust is gone, it's nearly impossible to rebuild, especially when your every word is measured against the cold, hard edit of the show. The cameras don't lie, and the fans who dissect every frame certainly don't let you get away with half-truths. We've seen this dynamic before on Welcome to Plathville. Think about Olivia Plath. Love her or hate her, her credibility has always shaped the way fans receive her storylines. When she exposed Kim's controlling ways, the fan base rallied behind her because her truth matched what viewers could see play out. Kim, on the other hand, often lost her grip on the narrative precisely because fans didn't trust her. Credibility isn't just a background detail in this universe, it is the narrative. And Veronica learned that lesson the hard way. For me, as I watched this play out, it felt bigger than just one woman's failed attempt at scandal. It was a reminder of the ongoing tension in reality television, the battle between truth and drama. Drama drives ratings, sure, but without truth anchoring it, the storyline collapses like a house of cards. Veronica's arc was a microcosm of this. Her attempt at heightening the drama backfired because reality television, ironically, punishes those who bend reality too far. And that's where this storyline stings the most. Veronica had a real chance to contribute meaningfully to the Plathville conversation, to shine a light on messy truths. Instead, by stretching her story beyond what the footage could hold, she didn't just lose her audience, she lost her voice. And so, here we are at the end of Veronica's arc. The story of a woman who once stood tall as a supposed whistleblower, only to end up as a cautionary tale. She stepped into the Plathville universe as someone who claimed to carry hidden truths, someone who promised to peel back the curtain and show us the darkness the cameras supposedly missed. But instead of cementing herself as a trusted voice, her exaggerations hollowed out her credibility. What was once intrigue has now become mockery, and that fall from grace happened faster than anyone could have predicted. For fans, this is a reminder that in the world of reality TV, not all truth tellers deserve blind loyalty. The loudest voice isn't always the most honest one. Sometimes the people who posture as brave insiders are really just storytellers chasing attention. And when their tales don't line up with what we actually see on screen, their power evaporates in an instant. Veronica's rise and fall is living proof. Credibility can't be faked, and the truth has a way of surviving even the most dramatic spin. For me, this whole saga has been emotional to watch unfold. It's messy, it's frustrating, and it's honestly a little sad. Veronica had an opportunity to contribute to the conversation around Welcome to Plathville in a way that mattered. She could have been remembered as the one who brought clarity, but instead she became a symbol of exaggeration gone wrong. And that's why I think this story resonates so strongly. It isn't just about one person, it's about the bigger theme of how we, as viewers, decide who we can trust in a world built on half-truths and edits. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Veronica lied? Did she misremember the events in a way that made them bigger in her own mind? Or was it something more calculated? Did she simply want attention? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this is a debate that isn't going away anytime soon. And if you're just discovering my channel, this is Reality Scandals Daily. Make sure to hit subscribe, tap that notification bell and join the conversation. Because around here, we don't just watch the drama, we pull it apart piece by piece.